Hey, let's get this video started. Hello, let's get ready to do some yoga. First, I want to take a minute to go over some of the props that I like to have handy. A canvas strap, a couple different sizes of yoga blocks, a handful of pillows, and I like to have two different size bolsters. The supports are used to allow a maximum relaxation and restorative practice. Also, the blocks can be utilized to essentially bring the floor a little bit closer to you. We're going to start in Savasana, setting our intentions for today's practice. Corpse pose, just laying down. I usually like to have a bolster under my knees and maybe a small pillow under the nape of my neck. Focusing on what you want to bring into your life and what you're needing to let go of in order to create the space to allow that change and shift. Relax into Savasana while setting your intentions. Continue to remain in Savasana while intentionally allowing yourself to let go of all of your worries and concerns. Let go of your stress from the day, from the week, the month, the entire year. Allow yourself to be stress-free. And slowly rotate your head and neck to the right. Take a deep breath. Rotate head and neck to neutral. And then to the left side. Another deep breath. And then back to neutral. Stretching out long, reaching your hands overhead, pointing your toes, rotating your ankles. Then hug both of your knees in. Then lower your left leg down to the mat while continuing to hug that right knee for several breaths. Option to engage the foot, flex your heel, rotate the ankle, point your toes, continue hugging that knee, paying close attention to the micro movements and the compression in your right hip socket. After several more breaths, reach for your strap. Get the canvas to go across the ball of your right foot. And then straighten out that leg, keeping the knee bent slightly if you wish. Maybe pull that leg slightly closer to your chest and hold there. Before then swinging the leg out to the right while continuing to hold the strap for this half straddle. Hold there for a couple of deep breaths. Then release and set your strap aside while lowering your right leg back down to the mat. Hands are overhead, again stretching out long, pointing the toes, rotating your ankles, before then hugging in both of your legs once again, and then lowering your right leg back down to the mat while continuing to hug your left knee tightly. Again, you can engage the foot and ankle by flexing and pointing your toes, rotating your ankle, continuing to hug your left knee in tightly. And again, paying attention to the micro movements and focus on the compression in that hip socket. Then get your strap, place the canvas across the ball of your left foot, straighten out the left leg, holding it there. You can have a slight bend in the knee if you wish. Then you might pull the leg just a little closer to your chest. Before then, swinging that left leg out to the left with your strap for that half straddle. This is a big stretch. I'm going to hold that for several breaths. Then set your strap aside while lowering that leg back down to the mat. Both legs are out straight, stretching out long, arms are up overhead. Then hug both knees tightly again. Continue to hold your right knee while lowering the left leg back down to the mat. Hold there before then placing that right knee onto the floor or bolster across your body for the supine twist. Arms are in a T. Stay in the supine twist, keeping your drishti out over your right fingertips. You have an option to use your left hand to apply light pressure to your right knee if you wish. Enjoy the stretch, focusing on the release before then slowly turning your head to look to the opposite direction for 2 full breaths. Then slowly turn the head and the neck back to the right, relaxing your gaze. And then back to neutral. Lower that right leg back to the floor, hugging in both of your knees together. Head and neck towards the knees, rocking and rolling. And then lowering your right leg to the floor while continuing to hug your left knee. Hold it there. Then move that left knee across your body to place it onto the ground or bolster on the right side of yourself for the supine twist on the other side. Arms are in a T again. Enjoy this release while keeping your gaze out over your left fingertips. With your right hand, you can apply light pressure to the left knee at any point if you wish. Relax into this twist, then slowly turn your head to the right, the opposite direction. Hold for a couple of breaths, then back towards your left, and then neutral. Lower the left leg back down to the mat when coming out of this twist. Stretch your arms out long overhead. Then hug both knees once again, stretching your neck, rotating both ankles, engaging the feet, flexing the heels, pointing your toes. And now we're going to get into the reclined butterfly. You may want to utilize props under the knees or thighs. Arms are down by your sides. Hands facing up, surrendering to your practice. Then glide your arms out to the sides, across the floor, arching them overhead in a half moon to the steeple grip. Holding there, then gliding your arms back down to your sides like butterfly wings. Hands or palms are facing up, slowly stretching your arms out to your sides again.
Can you close that door,
then
sweetie?
Bringing them back up overhead, touching the fingertips to each other in prayer hands. With your arms overhead outstretched, you can keep your fingers and thumbs touching lightly or have them in steeple grip while remaining in the reclined butterfly pose. Here you can remove any props you might be using before getting into a reclined tree pose. First, straighten out your left leg while placing the sole of your right foot against the inseam of your left thigh as high as you can. Hands still overhead in prayer hands. Steeple grip or yogi's choice. Hold for several breaths. Then simply switch sides by first straightening out your right leg and then placing the sole of your left foot high to the inseam of your right thigh. Arms can still be in prayer hands overhead or branching arms out, goalpost arms, steeple grip, however you're most comfortable. And then reach for your strap and get it across the balls of both feet for legs up the wall. Knees can be straight or bent slightly. You can pedal your knees, rock, you can wiggle, anything you wish. Continue to keep your left foot in the strap, keeping the canvas on the ball of your foot while you remove your right foot and place that ankle across your left thigh for reclined pigeon. Holding that there, bending your left knee slightly is an option, or keeping it straight, or some of each, straightening and bending. Then we will switch out the feet, getting your right foot back into that strap and removing your left foot. Placing that foot across your right thigh for the reclining pigeon on the other side. Enjoy this stretch. Again, you have the option to bend the knee slightly, straightening it, or some of both. And then we're going to lay flat for 3 honey bumblebee breaths. Fingers go across your closed eyes, thumbs are on your ear cartilage. Press your thumbs down on that tragus, closing off the airway into your ears. Breathing in through your nose and out through the nose. We will hum low pitch 3 times on your exhale. After that, get ready to turn yourself over slowly to the left or the right. Flip yourself over to lay prone on your front side. You can rest your head on your hands, laying on top of one another for several breaths, preparing for another twist. Come up onto your elbows and forearms into Sphinx. Then hike up your right knee, with your right arm out in front of you. With your left arm, you can thread the needle. Make any adjustments for the pose you need to as you get into the spine twist once again. You might want to use a bolster or a prop to support your knee. You can straighten out both of your arms, trying to lay your shoulders flat on the ground, arms in a T. At any point, you can use your left hand to apply slight pressure to your right knee. Keeping your gaze over the right shoulder, looking out towards your right fingertips. Feel the difference from the last supine twist, having gotten into the pose from an entirely different series of prompts and directives. Also notice the similarities along with the differences. When you are ready to come out of the twist, you can rest your head on your hands again, laying them on top of one another for several breaths. And then bending your knees, feet in the air, windshield wiper the feet and calves back and forth, before then slowing it down and lowering your feet back down to the mat. Then come back up onto your forearms and elbows and hands into that Sphinx pose again. Hike your left knee up to the left side with your left arm out in front of you. Thread your right arm through the needle, shifting into the supine twist again, same as the other side. You can adjust yourself so that both shoulders and arms are flat on the ground. In a T, and again, you have the option to apply a light pressure with the right hand onto your left knee, keeping your drishti out over your left shoulder. Relax into this twist, while once again noticing any similarities and differences from the first supine twist and even from the other side. When you are done, unwind and then rest your head on your hands again. This time in an exaggerated motion, really windshield wiper those feet and knees, loosening the hips out too. Then lower your feet to the ground, sending your hips back towards your feet, getting into a wide knee child pose. You can use a block or a bolster or a pillow to rest your head or torso on. You can hold that position, really relaxing your torso. Ragdoll the upper portion of your body, allowing gravity to do the work for you. When we're done, remove the prop if you have one.
Watch out, baby.
Then come up into a tabletop and back into Sphinx. On your elbows and forearms again, this time spreading your hands and your fingers out as wide as you can. Holding that Sphinx pose tall, before then turning your right forearm to be parallel with the top of your mat. Reach back for your left foot with your left hand. Hold the half bow pose for several breaths. Take a minute here to attempt the full bow, getting each of your feet into each of your hands. You may want to use the strap so that you can get each of your feet into either hand. However you need to do it if you're able to get into the full bow shape. If it's too much to do, just stick with whatever your body is comfortable with, knowing that your level of flexibility varies from day to day, especially if you're not used to this one. It's really challenging, even when you are used to it. You can use your breath and your diaphragm to rock yourself if you're in the full bow, or you can remain still, or some of each. Then let go to rest your head on your hands again, one hand atop the other, and windshield wipering those feet, loosening out those hips again too. And then slowing that down, lowering your feet back down to the mat. Then the same thing on the other side. Coming back into Sphinx, stretching your hands and fingers out as wide as you can. Sitting tall before then turning that left forearm parallel to the top of your mat. Reaching with your right hand back to hold your right foot. Engage the half bow for several breaths. And then just like on the other side, attempt the full bow if it's in your practice. You can use your strap, have someone spot you, or whatever it is you need to support this challenge of full bow. And again, you can use your breath and your diaphragm to rock back and forth. You can try to remain still or a bit of both. When letting go, lower both feet to the mat, and again send your hips back to sit on your feet into a child's pose. If you'd like to, you can place a block under your bum. While sitting on your feet, you can rest your head on another block. We're going to be here for a prolonged period. Breathe into it. Then you can walk your fingers or slide your hands to the right edge of your mat, reaching towards the upper right corner of the mat, feeling the stretch across your lower left ribs. Then hands and fingers back to neutral. Slide or walk the hands and fingers to the left edge of the mat, reaching up towards the upper left corner. Focus on that extension on the lower right ribs, holding that for several breaths. And then gliding or walking the fingers back to neutral. Really lean into this child's pose. Breathe into it. Allow gravity to do its work for you. And then slowly, when you're ready, you can push your torso up with your hands on the mat in front of you, coming up into a lightning bolt pose. Pausing there. Again, you might want a block under your bum. You can place your hands onto your thighs, remaining still, noting the challenges of this seemingly simple pose. Prayer hands over heart.
Stop.
Slowly rising your prayer hands overhead and then lowering them back down to hands over heart again, placing your hands back onto your thighs. Then we're going to come up onto the knees into a widened stance, reaching your arms behind you, getting your hands and fingers into a bind to explore the limits of your flexibility, bending your hands and arms out in this bind. You might be trying to lift your arms higher behind you. You might be leaning your torso back or leaning forward with your arms over your back. Just explore the limits of your flexibility here. Before then moving into a camel pose, getting your hands out of that bind, leaning back, arching your torso, maybe holding blocks or using a bolster. I like to have a bolster across my ankles and then reach that with my hands while I lean back. It's a nice chest opener. And then as you come back up out of this shape, you can sit back onto your feet again for the hero's pose. Once again, focusing on your breath. Hands on your thighs, maybe prayer hands over your chest, over your heart. When you're ready, you can swing your legs out around in front of yourself for staff pose. With props, you can stack pillows onto the tops of your legs before you ragdoll your body over your thighs, resting your torso on the props. Alternatively, you can use the strap on the balls of your feet for the same type of effect here. We're going to relax into this for an extended period. Really lean into it. Envision tilting your hips towards your feet, towards your toes. Again, allow gravity to do the work for you. And focus, easing your weight forward, trusting the gravitational pull to completely support you. And then when we're done, we're going to remove the props, setting them aside. Get your left leg stretched out long and bring the right foot up high to the inseam of the left thigh. Reaching your left toes, reaching for your left toes in a side bend. Breathe into this stretch. Focus on relaxing into it. Trusting gravity to do its work. Then when you're ready, come up to neutral. Get your legs into a wide straddle, leaning forward. Take a couple of deep, intentional breaths. Maybe using the blocks to rest your elbows on as you're leaning forward. Slowly transitioning, switching it out to the other side. Place your left foot to the inner right thigh, reaching for those right toes in a side bend. Your left hand is over the right-handed foot. Focusing on your breath, and again, trusting gravity to do its magic, supporting you and keeping you safe. Then coming back up to neutral, stretching both legs out to a wide leg straddle again. Leaning forward, reaching out in front of yourself or resting your forearms and forehead on two blocks stacked on top of each other. Focus on leaning the weight of your skull onto that block, trusting gravity to fully support you, trusting the props. Relaxing, intentional breathing. And then we're going to come into a seated butterfly, holding the soles of your feet together with both hands, pushing knees towards the floor, sitting up tall, and then mindfully bending your head and your neck towards your feet before gently rising your head slowly up to neutral, imagining a string above your head, pulling it straight up. And then twist your head from side to side, first to the right, and then neutral, and then to the left, and then back to neutral. Now stretch your neck down, rolling it out. Small movements at first. Turn your head back and forth like you're indicating a no. You can stretch your neck diagonally, bending from side to side. If you want, you can move your head up and down as if acknowledging a yes. If it's in your practice, you can do a full circle rotation in one direction and then the full circle rotation in the other direction. And then bring your head to neutral before shifting into easy pose. Touching down to the ground with your left fingertips. Drop your right ear to your right shoulder. You have an option here to use a light pressure with your right fingertips on the top of your skull. If you want, you can move your head slightly back and forth to gently massage out your neck muscles. And then your head and neck back to neutral. Reaching with your right hand towards the ground while dropping your left ear to your left shoulder. Again, with that slight pressure with the left fingertips, if you wish, moving the head and neck slightly back and forth. And then back to neutral. And again, turn your head slowly from side to side, gently to the right. Hold. Back to neutral. Slowly to the left. And then back to neutral. Now we bring ourselves into that wide straddle, again leaning forward. You may want to use the blocks in front of you to rest your forehead on, again, as we will remain in this stretch for an extended period. Focus your breathing, filling your lungs, emptying your lungs, and then filling them again with clean air, appreciating the oxygen traveling through your system, in your bloodstream, making its way to your muscles as you relax into the stretch. And then you can pick up a block in each of your hands, reaching over your left foot. Place those blocks on either side of your foot and rest your hands on each of the blocks, or just reach for your toes, allowing gravity to assist your efforts, making the side stretch almost effortless. And then picking up those blocks and placing them out in front of you, leaning forwards, and then you can pick them back up to place on either side of your right foot. You can reach for your toes, or you can rest your hands on the blocks. Breathe deep and allow gravity to work its magic. After letting go of all of your stress, then come back to neutral, and you can set the blocks aside. Our next pose will be bending our right knee over our left leg that's extended out straight, twisting to the right, gazing to the back of the room. Right hand or fist is on the floor behind you. Arm is supporting the torso. Using your left elbow to leverage on the right knee. You can slowly turn your gaze to the front of the room. And then slowly returning your gaze to the back of the room, all while continuing to leverage that left elbow on the right knee. And then as you come out of this twist, you're simply going to switch sides, bending the left knee over the right leg extended out straight, left hand or fist on the floor behind you, gazing over the left shoulder towards the back of the room, leveraging your right elbow or arm against that left knee. And then slowly turning the gaze over the right shoulder towards the front of the room. And then carefully returning your drishti to the back of the room over your left shoulder again. Continuing to leverage that right elbow on that left knee. And then back to neutral. Now hold the soles of your feet together, getting into the butterfly. Again, pressing those knees towards the floor. Sitting up tall. Slowly and carefully bending your head and neck towards your feet. And then again, imagining a string being pulled from above, from the top of your head. As you come up to neutral, gently turn your head to the right. Slowly then back to neutral. Carefully to the left. And then again back to neutral. And now we're going to get our legs into cow face and then Lord of the Fish. First, bend the right knee over the left knee that is also bent, stacking them on top of one another for cow face. Sitting up tall, holding each of your feet in each of your hands. You can use your thumbs to press into the arches of each foot, giving yourself a nice, gentle foot massage if you like. Then we're going to turn all the way to the right. The right arm is in back. The left elbow is leveraging against that right knee again. Looking to the back of the room. Appreciate the power of this twist. And then slowly you can turn your head to the opposite side. Carefully, then back again. And then back to neutral. And now you can straighten both legs out in front of yourself for staff pose. Reaching your arms out wide to the sides and arching them overhead in the half moon up towards the sky. Interlace your hands and fingers into that bind, turning them outward, reaching up as tall as you can before bending forward while reaching for your toes. Notice any tightness in your back, loosening before then coming back up to neutral. And now preparing to switch your legs out for cow face on the other side. Your left knee bends and goes over your right bent knee. Holding your feet with each of your hands, you can massage the thumbs into the arches of each foot again. Sitting tall before then twisting to the left. Right arm leveraging against the left knee. Looking over the left shoulder to the back of the room. And then slowly, after a minute, turning your gaze to the other side of the room, looking over your right shoulder. And then slowly returning the gaze to the left shoulder to look towards the back of the room once again. And then your head back to neutral. Coming out of this twist, you can return to staff pose, reaching your arms out wide, your legs out front, making a half moon arch, touching hands overhead for steeple grip, reaching tall, before then leaning forward to touch your toes. Notice if you have any more tension in your back than you did just a minute ago in the same stretch. And then as you come back up to neutral, transition into easy pose, reaching your arms out to the sides, and then up overhead for the half moon arch, touching your hands together for prayer hands before getting into cactus arms, preparing for eagle arms, from cactus or goalpost arms together, arms together with the right elbow over the left elbow, hands together, pushing elbows up slightly, bending the head and neck down slightly. Option to then slowly look up as high as possible, leaning your head slightly back while pushing eagle arms towards the sky. As your arms unpretzel, then reach them back out wide, touching the hands down to the ground, and then arching them back up overhead into another half moon, touching hands together for prayer hands, and then back to cactus, and again eagle arms with the left elbow over the right elbow this time, pushing the elbows up slightly, bending the neck and head down. And again, option to slowly look up as high as possible and leaning your head slightly back, pushing your elbows and arms up as we unpretzel ourselves again, and stretch arms out wide to the sides, touch the earth, then reaching back out wide and up, bringing them overhead in another half moon arch to steeple grip, sitting tall. And then simple twists to each side, lowering your arms down. Your right hand goes behind you, your left hand goes onto your right knee, lifting your right arm up and crossing it over the left arm, reaching for that left knee with the right hand, then the left hand onto the floor behind you, before then raising that left arm up high, reaching over the right arm to hold the right knee, before then coming back to neutral and just hugging your knees lightly in this basket shape. Here you have an opportunity to get into the boat pose. I like to hold my hands under my legs first for a nice strong boat pose, before then letting go and just holding my arms out parallel to the ground, legs up in a V shape. And then I like to scissor my legs and feet for a moment just to get an additional workout on my core strength, before then laying down onto your back. Stretch out long, before then planting both of your feet on the floor, knees bent. You may want to hold a block or a pillow in between the knees, and possibly another one on each side of you to allow your knees to fall to the right. Hold this stretch for about a minute, arms in a T. Focusing the gaze out over the left fingertips. Then slowly rotate your head to look out the other direction to your right. And then back again over your left shoulder, before head and neck go back to neutral. And then bring the knees to neutral. Allow those knees to fall to the other side, to the left, still with the arms in a T, gazing out over your right fingertips. Slowly turn your head to be looking out over your left shoulder, setting your gaze over the left fingertips, and then slowly turning back to look out over your right shoulder again, then back to neutral, knees back to neutral. Remove any props, hug in both knees, bending the head and the neck, engaging the feet, flexing your heels, pointing your toes, rotate your ankles. Then plant both feet firmly on the mat again. Raise your right knee high over your left knee. Then allow your legs to fall to your right with your arms in a T, gazing out over those left fingertips. We're going to hold this twist for several breaths. This is our last twist. It's my all-time favorite. Slowly rotate your head to be looking out over your right fingertips. Slowly rotate your head back to be looking out over your left fingertips again. And then back to neutral. You can undo your knees as you bring them up to neutral. Hug those knees into your chest, rocking and rolling before firmly planting both feet back onto the mat again for the other side. Lifting your left knee up to bend it over the right knee. Allowing the legs to fall to the left. Arms are in that T with your gaze out over your right fingertips. Enjoy this final twist. Slowly rotate your head and neck to be looking over the left shoulder. And then slowly rotate your head and neck to be looking back over that right shoulder. Then the head and neck back to neutral. Release your knees back up to neutral. Hug both knees in tight. One more time, rocking and rolling. You have an option here for the happy baby. Grabbing each of your feet with each of your hands. You can rock the baby. Maybe alternate straightening and slightly bending each knee. When we're done with happy baby, coming out of that form, we'll just lay flat. Before then reaching for a block for supported bridge, plant both feet firmly on the mat again, lifting the hips, sliding a block under the small of your back on its lowest level. Relax, lowering the small of your back onto that block. And just relax into the supported bridge. While still on the block, you can reach for your strap, or you can do this without the strap. But with your strap, get the canvas across the balls of both feet, and we'll do legs up the wall. You can walk your legs out, alternating, straightening and bending one side and then the other, if you want. And when we're done with our legs up the wall, we'll set the strap to the side, remove the block. If it's in your practice, there's an opportunity here for a shoulder stand in the plow. You can take a minute or two to do these, or yogi's choice. Any stretch that you would like to feel complete with your practice, or feel free to get into Savasana early and we will meet you there. Should you be in a shoulder stand, you may want to point your toes tall. You might want to rotate your ankles. might want to flex your heels, anything you'd like before transitioning into the plow. And then when you're coming out of the plow, slow and controlled with your chin tucked, one vertebrae at a time, roll yourself down onto your mat as slowly as you can, and then relax into that savasana. Remember the intentions that you set at the beginning of the practice today. Thank yourself for taking time out of your day to focus on yourself and your well-being. And then as you bring your awareness back into the room and into your body, you can either roll to one side or the other. Give yourself a minute, just laying on your side if you want, before pushing yourself to sit up. Or if it's comfortable for you, there's an option here to just slightly rock with your chin tucked, coming up with your elbows behind yourself, straightening your arms out behind you and pushing yourself straight up. Either way, we'll transition into easy pose. Place your left hand on the right knee, right hand on the floor behind you, lightly twisting to the right, crossing that right arm over your left arm, right hand onto the left knee, and then reaching your left hand behind you to the left for another light twist, and then crossing the left arm over the right, and then holding that right knee again with your left hand. And then we can just hug ourselves lightly in this basket shape. Before then, hugging yourself as tightly as you can, making yourself as small as you can, a little seed or a ball, constricting yourself in to take up as little space as possible. Before then, releasing and stretching your arms out wide to the sides into a star shape, and then place each hand on each of your knees, touching the pointer fingers to the thumbs, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. We'll chant Om 3 times in a low pitch. And then stretching your arms out wide again for the half moon arch, bringing your arms up overhead to prayer hands. Then to acknowledge your insight and wisdom, touch your thumbs or knuckles to your third eye on the way to hands over heart. Then reaching the arms out wide one last time for one more half moon arch. Prayer hands overhead, slowly lowering those prayer hands down to hands over heart, and then bowing to close and seal this practice. And so it is. I thank you for this practice today. Be well. Enjoy